Well, to say it's been warm out lately has kind of been an understatement. You can see the peak of the recent heat was kind of on Christmas Day and the day after. And this is for Lansing, but some of these were so far above normal that we were flirting with record highs through Christmas Day and the day after. We did set record warm lows for this time of the year. Some of those were in the middle to upper 40s, so lots of heat. And New Year's Day, that was the one day that we were kind of anywhere near average, and this has been the story most of the year. So let's take a little look at how December shook out across Lansing. We were about 9 degrees above average. That is very far above average when you're factoring in daytime highs, nighttime lows, everything in between from December 1st through December 31st. Now, slightly above average on precip. Snow, though, we were pretty far below, and now for the whole season, we're almost a foot below where we should be, and it is the least snow on record from the beginning through early January that we have ever experienced in recorded history. So definitely a little bit lacking on the snow side of things for sure. Warmest temperature was almost 60 on the 9th, and just a couple of days later, we had a little bit of a drop there down into the 20s. So here's how it looks in terms of the warmest Decembers in Lansing. We were just ever so slightly behind 2015, which came in only 0.2 degrees higher than what we experienced. So just for, human sake and what we feel, pretty much the same. But in terms of record keeping, slightly behind there. Notice even 2021 was up there, 2006, 2001. So we've had a lot of recent years come in the warmest Decembers. Now, of course, there's some other years scattered in, but they're pretty widely spaced apart compared to the warmest Decembers in the 2000s, since the year 2000. And because of that, here's a current look at the Great Lakes. We have record warm water temperatures out there. So when and if we finally do get a cold shot of air coming our way or an Arctic outbreak, this is likely to set off the lake effect snow machine like crazy. So we'll definitely keep an eye on that as we get a little further into the season. Now, recapping the year as a whole, we had several major weather events, such as the August tornadoes, including an EF2 just east of Williamson that was rated at 125 miles per hour. The February ice storm, especially down near Hillsdale, where power outages in some cases were pushing 2 weeks. We had the second fastest onset of drought in Lansing, and that is saying something because it was so wet this spring with flooding, and then it just stopped and we got dry. And it wasn't just dry for us, it was dry for Canada. They had a record wildfire season, and a lot of that smoke came down into our area, so we were dealing with wildfire smoke and air quality issues from that. Here's a look at some of the tornado damage from that EF2 tornado, and this is just south of I-96. Heavy damage to a lot of buildings there. Of course, the February ice storm, this was taken down near Hillsdale by one of our reporters. And then the drought conditions. And like I said, it wasn't just for us, it was for the whole region, including a little bit further up into Canada as well, where that dry air came through. And this is the Upper Peninsula right here. We have Lake Michigan right here, the Lower Peninsula, all covered by wildfire smoke. That's what the gray is. The white is actual cloud cover. So we've had a lot of that as we go throughout the summer. And unfortunately, if this trend continues and we continue to see above average temperatures and warm, dry conditions, that could be more common in the years to come. So the year recap, we actually came in at the 4th warmest year on record, but the 1st warmest for the whole planet when you factor in everything. But in Lansing, about 3.3 degrees above average, and that's a lot on the average for 365 days. A little bit above average in terms of moisture, and again, we hit 92 a few times. Coldest number was 0. So what we typically experience in January here it's our coldest time of the year. So the average high is 32, average low is 20. We've been nowhere near that yet this season. By the end of the month, we are typically at some of our coldest readings, about 31 and 16 for highs and lows. Sun starts to set a little bit later. Now, of course, we don't know exactly what's going to come over the next couple of months, but things are leaning towards staying on the warmer side with El Nino and climate change. So here's it kind of as a whole. In 2022, the planet was 1.1 degrees warmer than the baseline during the pre-industrial revolution. In 2023, 1.46. So we took about 33% of the previous record and stacked it right on top of it. That is a large margin of warming. And again, El Nino does fuel that a little bit. We had La Nina holding us back the last couple of years, but overall, that is still a pretty large amount of warming in just 1 year. Now, looking forward, every single stripe I'm about to show you shows above or below average. So globally, you can see here going all the way back into the mid-1850s, we have been warming quite a bit, especially in the recent couple of decades. That does translate into the United States. Thus, it translates into Michigan. Notice we've had virtually no blue lines the last 20 years or so, and even into Lansing as well. A lot more colder years previously, and then we had a little bit of warm up, a little bit of cool down in the 70s there, and then of course lots of warming. We'll add another dark red stripe to that at the very end. I do want to show you the yearly average temperature in Lansing. It might not look like it's going up quick, but it is. You take the red line, you can definitely see how it's increasing over several years. This little bit of a dip here was the notorious cold and snowy 1970s that I think a lot of us still remember, but we're still going up. And likewise for Decembers. Again, Lansing goes back pretty far, so pretty good, estimate here for most of the state as well. That's back before the pre-industrial revolution. We have warmed up for sure, but especially in the last couple of years, I mean, look at that, crazy. Our lows that we've had were about some of the highs back in the late 1800s. So we're definitely warming. Decembers on average in Lansing since 1863 have warmed up almost 5 degrees, and that's likely to continue going up with climate change.